My sister-in-law's knife sliced through the roast with a precision that felt intentional. Each cut echoed in the suddenly quiet dining room as her words hung in the air like smoke that wouldn't clear. She looked directly at me, her green eyes, cold and calculated, and said, "It's funny how your baby looks nothing like anyone in our family." Before I jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The mashed potatoes on my fork fell back onto my plate with a soft thud. Mark's parents exchanged glances across the Sunday dinner table. His father, Brian, cleared his throat and reached for his water glass. His mother, Patricia, suddenly found something fascinating about the pattern on her napkin. "Actually," I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart, "I think we need to talk about that." Mark, my husband of 3 years, the man I'd fallen in love with at a coffee shop in downtown Seattle, shifted in his chair beside me. Our 6-month-old daughter, Lily, gurgled happily in her high chair, oblivious to the tension thick enough to cut with Emily's carving knife. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Sarah Chen, and I've been married to Mark Wilson for 3 years. We met at Pike Place Market on a rainy Tuesday morning. I was running late for work, juggling my umbrella and coffee when I literally crashed into him at the flower stall. He was buying lavender for his mother, and I was trying to avoid getting soaked. We both ended up drenched, laughing and exchanging numbers. 6 months later, he proposed during a sunset hike at Mount Rainier. Mark's family seemed welcoming at first. His parents owned a successful real estate business in the city, and his sister Emily was a marketing executive with 3 kids of her own. Sunday dinners were a tradition that went back generations. The first time I joined, Patricia hugged me tight and said, "We're so glad Mark found someone." Emily smiled and asked about my work as a pediatric nurse. Everything felt perfect, like I was finally getting the family I'd always wanted after losing both my parents to cancer within 2 years of each other. But perfection has a way of showing its cracks under pressure. When I got pregnant with Lily, the first hints of doubt crept in during subtle comments. "Are you sure about the due date?" Emily asked during my baby shower. Mark's side of the family tends to have big babies. When the ultrasound technician mentioned that Lily appeared to be on the smaller side, Patricia frowned and said, "That's unusual for our family." I brushed off these comments as typical family quirks. Every family has them, right? The aunt who asks about your weight, the uncle who questions your career choices. I thought these were just their versions of that. Lily was born on a crisp October morning, 7 pounds, 3 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and the brightest gray eyes you've ever seen. The first thing Patricia said when she held her wasn't, "She's beautiful," or "Congratulations." It was, "She looks nothing like Mark did." The nurses assured me that newborns often don't look like their parents right away. They told us stories about babies who looked completely different from their birth appearance by 6 months. I clung to these assurances like a life raft, even as Emily commented on Lily's unusual eye shape, and Patricia wondered aloud about the unexpected darkness of her hair. Mark was defensive at first. "She's perfect," he'd say. "Who cares who she looks like?" But I noticed him studying Lily's features more carefully during late-night feedings. I caught him comparing her baby photos to his own, though he'd quickly flipped the album closed when he noticed me watching. By the time Lily was 3 months old, the comments had become less subtle. During our monthly Sunday dinner, Brian pointed out that every Wilson baby had blue eyes like Mark's, not gray like Lily's. Emily mentioned how her children had all inherited the family's distinctive strong chin, something clearly absent in Lily's, still forming features. The final breaking point came at Lily's 4-month pediatric appointment. The doctor, Dr. Patel, smiled as she examined our daughter. "She's developing beautifully," she said. "And those eyes, they're so unusual, almost a silvery gray. I see that sometimes with certain genetic combinations." Mark's hand tightened on the armrest of his chair. What do you mean by certain genetic combinations? Dr. Patel looked surprised by his tone. Oh, nothing specific. Just that eye color inheritance can be complex. My youngest has gray eyes, too, even though neither my husband nor I do. But the damage was done. That evening, as I gave Lily her bath, Mark sat on the bathroom counter, unusually quiet. "Do you think we should get a DNA test?" he finally asked. The bottle of baby shampoo slipped from my hand, clattering into the bathtub. Lily startled, then settled back into her bath seat, reaching for rubber ducks. "Why would you ask that?" My voice came out higher than intended. "I don't know," he mumbled. "My family's been talking." "And you're listening?" "I'm just saying, people are noticing things." That night, for the first time since we'd brought Lily home, we went to bed without saying goodnight. The following Sunday, Emily was at her worst. She brought out photo albums, spreading them across the coffee table after dinner. Baby pictures of Mark, her own children, even Brian in his cradle from the 1950s. "See?" She pointed triumphantly at a photo of newborn Mark. Even as a baby, you could see the Wilson jaw, the blue eyes, the broader forehead. Patricia nodded sagely. "And look at Emily's children. Even mixed with her ex-husband's genes, the Wilson traits came through strong." I shifted Lily higher, on my hip. She cooed and reached for my earring, content in her ignorance of the conversation happening around her. "Babies change a lot in the first year," I said, keeping my voice level. "My cousin's baby looked completely different at 6 months than she did as a newborn." "Different? Yes," Emily countered, "but not like a different family entirely." Mark said nothing. He sat in his father's leather armchair, staring at the photos with an intensity that made my stomach churn. That was the night I decided to take action. The next morning, while Mark was at work and Lily was napping, I called Dr. Martin, a genetic counselor I'd worked with during my nursing days at Children's Hospital. I explained the situation without going into specifics about the family pressure. "A DNA test could help," she said. "But Sarah, I have to ask, do you have any doubts yourself?" "No," I answered immediately. "But sometimes proving the truth is the only way to end the doubt others are planting." She gave me the name of a reputable testing service. "Just remember, once you open this door, you can't close it again." I ordered the test that afternoon. The kit arrived 3 days later in a plain brown box. I swabbed Lily's cheek while she was sleeping, then Mark's coffee cup when he left it on the counter before his morning run. I overnighted the samples to the lab, marked as rush processing. 7 days of waiting felt like 7 years. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. Every time Mark looked at me questioningly, I wondered if he could read my guilt about doing this without telling him. But I needed answers before the next Sunday dinner, before Emily could make another comment, before Patricia could raise another eyebrow at Lily's features. The results came on a Thursday afternoon. I sat in my car in the testing center's parking lot, hands shaking as I opened the email on my phone. The probability of paternity is 97%. I read it 3 times. Then I printed the official report at the office store across the street. Then I tucked it into my purse and drove home. Sunday dinner that week felt like preparing for battle. I dressed Lily in the outfit Patricia had bought her, a frilly pink dress with a matching headband. I made Mark's favorite pie from scratch. I even offered to bring extra wine. "You're being unusually helpful," Mark observed as we drove to his parents' house. "I just want everything to go smoothly," I replied, patting the envelope in my purse. Dinner started normally enough. Patricia praised my pie. Brian talked about a difficult client at work. Emily complained about her oldest son's new obsession with skateboarding. But I could feel the undercurrent of tension, the way everyone's eyes lingered on Lily, the careful dance of not saying what they were thinking. Dessert was being served when Emily, true to form, couldn't hold back anymore. "You know," she said, cutting into the apple pie with that same precise motion I now recognized as aggressive. I was looking at Lily's baby book yesterday, the one you brought to show Mom, and I noticed something interesting about the birth certificate. "What's that?" I asked, my hand instinctively going to my purse. The hospital listed unknown for one of the fields. I couldn't see which one clearly, but it made me wonder if there wasn't some confusion during the birth process. Mark's fork froze halfway to his mouth. "Emily, stop. I'm just saying," she continued. "These things happen all the time. Hospital mix-ups, especially in busy birthing centers. Maybe we should just get a test to clear the air." "That's enough," Brian finally spoke up, but his voice lacked conviction. "Actually," I said, standing up and reaching into my purse, "I'm glad you brought that up." I placed the DNA test results on the table in front of Lily's high chair. The official letterhead of Pacific Northwest Genetics caught the light from Patricia's crystal chandelier. "I had the test done," I said clearly. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Because I was tired of watching my daughter be scrutinized like a puzzle piece that didn't fit. The room went silent. Emily's knife stayed suspended over her untouched pie. Patricia's coffee cup stopped halfway to her lips. Brian leaned forward, reading glasses suddenly appearing from his shirt pocket. "The probability of paternity is 997%, I read aloud, though everyone could see it. "Mark is Lily's biological father. She is a Wilson. She is your granddaughter, your niece, your cousin." Mark's chair scraped against the hardwood floor as he stood abruptly. His blue eyes, the ones everyone insisted Lily should have inherited, were fixed on the paper in his father's hands. "You did this without telling me." His voice was quiet, dangerous. "I did it because I needed you all to see the truth," I replied. "And because I was watching you doubt me, doubt us, doubt our family." "We just wanted to be sure," Patricia began, her usual composed demeanor cracking. "Sure of what?" I interrupted. "That I was faithful to your son? That our daughter is who we say she is? Do you know what it's like to see your own husband studying baby photos at 2 a.m., searching for features that should be obvious because of trust alone?" Emily set down her knife. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked uncertain. "We were just concerned. The Wilsons have such distinctive features. And Lily has them," I said firmly. "She has Mark's nose. She has Brian's exact chin. Look at his baby photos again. Her eyes might be gray now, but they're already lightening." Dr. Patel explained the science behind it. I lifted Lily from her high chair. She waved her tiny hands, still blissfully unaware of the weight of the moment. "But even if she didn't look like any of you, even if she was the spitting image of my mother instead of Mark's, she would still be your granddaughter, still be part of this family. Because that's what a test proves, genetics. But love, trust, faith in each other? Those are choices we make every day." Patricia stood up slowly. Her hands, usually so steady as she served perfect dinners and poured precise cups of tea, trembled slightly. "Sarah, I made a mistake." "We all did," Brian added, closing the report gently. "We let whispers of doubt grow louder than what we should have known all along." Mark finally moved. He walked around the table, not to me, but to his sister. "Emily, did you ever question if my child was mine before Sarah joined this family?" Emily's shoulders sagged. "No." "Did you question if Brian was my father when I was born with dark brown hair before it turned blonde?" "No." "Then why start now?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications none of them wanted to face directly. I knew the answer, even if they couldn't voice it. Because I was different. Because I didn't look like their family photos. Because my last name was Chen, not Wilson. Because love can be conditional when ignorance paints the conditions. "I want to apologize," Patricia said finally, her voice formal but genuine. "To both of you and to Lily. We allowed our own insecurities to overshadow what was truly important." The apologies came then, one by one. Emily's was the longest, filled with justifications and excuses that gradually transformed into genuine remorse. Brian's was short but direct. Mark's was silent. A hand on my shoulder, a kiss to Lily's forehead. The pie eventually got eaten, though it had lost its warmth. Conversation slowly returned to safer topics. Brian's golf game, Emily's upcoming work trip, Patricia's garden plans for spring. The DNA test results remained on the table, a silencing presence that no one moved. As we packed up to leave, Patricia helped me bundle Lily into her car seat. "She's beautiful," she said softly. "I'm sorry it took me so long to say that." "She's always been beautiful," I replied. "You just needed different eyes to see it." On the drive home, Mark finally spoke. "I should have trusted you. I should have defended you more. And I should have told you about the test," I admitted. "But I was so tired of feeling like I had to prove myself, prove our daughter, prove our marriage." "You don't," he said, "not to anyone." But even as the words brought relief, a question lingered in my mind. How many other families were divided by doubt? How many love stories were questioned because of differences that should have been celebrated, not scrutinized? The following weeks brought changes. Sunday dinners continued, but the atmosphere was different. Patricia asked about Lily's milestones with genuine interest. Emily included her children in video calls to bond with their cousin. Brian started a college savings account. But the biggest change was in Mark. The man who had studied baby photos in the middle of the night now took pride in pointing out every Wilson feature he could find in Lily's developing face, and every unique trait that was purely hers. 3 months after that Sunday dinner, Lily's eyes started changing. They lightened to blue, just like every Wilson generation before her. Emily noticed first during a holiday gathering. "I told you she looked like a Wilson," she exclaimed, as if she hadn't been the loudest voice of doubt. I smiled, bouncing Lily on my hip. "She always did. You just needed to look closer." And that's the truth about DNA tests, about family, about love itself. Sometimes seeing clearly requires more than just opening your eyes. It requires opening your heart to possibilities that challenge your assumptions. It requires choosing trust over suspicion, inclusion over division, love over fear. As I watch Lily grow, developing her own unique personality alongside inherited Wilson traits, I think about that Sunday dinner often. The envelope in my purse could have been a weapon, but I chose to make it a bridge instead. A bridge that connected doubt to certainty, question to answer, separation to unity. Because at the end of the day, DNA might prove biological connections, but it takes something far more powerful to build a family. It takes courage to face uncomfortable truths, humility to admit mistakes, and love to transform those lessons into deeper connections. And now, every time Emily cuts into Sunday dinners, roast with that careful precision, I see it not as aggression, but as care. Because the sharpest knives can also be the most nurturing tools, when wielded by hands that have learned to embrace rather than exclude. My daughter will grow up knowing she belongs, not because a test proved it, but because a family chose to prove it through their actions, their acceptance, and their love. And that's a truth more powerful than any percentage of probability could ever measure. My husband's family. Said our baby isn't his. Part 2. Final. 6 months passed, and Lily turned 1. The birthday party was held at Patricia's house, where the familiar Sunday dinners had become something entirely different. The test results now lived in a frame on Patricia's mantle, a reminder that belonged somewhere between family photos and achievements. Emily brought a cake shaped like a teddy bear, complete with little fondant decorations. She'd spent 3 days perfecting the recipe after discovering Lily was allergic to eggs. "I want her first birthday to be perfect," she'd told me on the phone, her voice carrying none of the sharpness I once feared. Mark's college friends came, along with my co-workers from the hospital. Lily toddled around in her new shoes, clutching fingers for balance while everyone watched her developing personality emerge. She had Brian's booming laugh and Patricia's precise hand gestures. Emily's oldest son taught her how to stack blocks while his siblings created chaos with wrapping paper. The afternoon sun painted everything golden as I found myself alone with Patricia in the kitchen. She was arranging fruit on a platter, each grape positioned with care. "I never thanked you properly," she said without looking up, "for how you handled everything." "There's nothing to thank me for," I replied, checking on Lily's formula bottle warming on the counter. "There is," she insisted. "You could have left, taken Lily and moved to the other side of the country. No one would have blamed you." "But that's not what families do," I said. "Real families work through their mistakes." She set down the grapes and faced me. I told myself I was protecting Mark, but I was really protecting this idea I had of what our family should look like. Her voice dropped. "My mother-in-law did the same thing to me when I married Brian. She kept saying our children would be watered down because I wasn't from Seattle born and bred like they were." This was the first personal story Patricia had ever shared with me. In 3 years of marriage and countless Sunday dinners, our conversations had never moved beyond pleasantries and logistics. "But that's exactly why," I started. "I know," she cut me off gently. "I became what I resented. I'm still working on understanding why." Through the kitchen window, I watched Mark helping Lily open presents. He'd taken the whole week off work, something I couldn't have imagined him doing a year ago. Now he documented every smile, every new word, every tiny milestone with the dedication of someone making up for lost trust. "Dr. Martin, the genetic counselor, told me something interesting," I said, testing how much Patricia wanted to learn. "She said genetic diversity actually strengthens family lines, that children inheriting traits from varied backgrounds tend to be healthier, more adaptable." Patricia considered this. "I suppose I never thought about it that way. We were always told to keep things the same." "But Lily isn't the same as you, or Mark or Emily," I pointed out. "She's all of you, but also entirely herself. And isn't that what makes her special?" When we rejoined the party, Emily was reading to Lily from a new book about a family of different animals who all lived together. Lily babbled happily, pointing at each creature with chubby fingers. Emily caught my eye over Lily's head and smiled, not the polite stretch of lips I'd grown accustomed to, but something warm and genuine. "Auntie M. Lee," Lily attempted, stumbling over the syllables. Emily's eyes widened. "She said it! She said my name!" In that moment, watching Emily scoop Lily up with tears in her eyes, I understood the true power of healing. It wasn't about erasing the past or pretending hurtful words were never said. It was about creating new memories strong enough to overshadow old grievances. Later that evening, after the guests had left and Lily was sleeping in her car seat, Mark and I sat in his parents' living room having one last cup of coffee. Brian pulled out an old photo album I'd never seen before. "My grandmother was Korean," he said quietly, opening to a page with a beautiful woman holding a baby. "She met my grandfather in Seattle in 1952. He was stationed here after the war." I studied the photos with growing amazement. The woman had Lily's exact eye shape, her delicate features. In one picture, she was laughing with the same expression I'd captured in hundreds of Lily's photos. "Why did you never tell me?" I asked. "We didn't really talk about it," Patricia admitted. She faced so much prejudice back then. By the time Mark was born, the family had assimilated. We thought we were protecting him by not carrying those stories forward. Mark was quiet, studying the photos with intense concentration. I had no idea, he finally said. All this time, I was looking for features I thought I knew, when I didn't even know myself. Emily joined us, bringing bowls of ice cream. There are more, she said softly. Uncle David's wife is Filipino. Cousin Rachel married a Chinese man, but they moved to California, so we don't see them much. The family tree has more branches than we acknowledge. The revelation transformed our understanding of identity. Here I'd been, feeling like an outsider, while my daughter carried the echo of ancestors none of us had known to look for. Lily wasn't just a Wilson by blood test. She was the reconnection to parts of the family history that had been buried under layers of silence and shame. I want to do better, Patricia said, surprising everyone with the catch in her voice. Not just with Lily, but with the whole family. I'm tired of pretending we're something we're not. We're stronger because of our differences, not despite them. That night, driving home through Seattle's rain-slicked streets, Mark finally asked the question I'd been waiting for. When did you know for sure? Not about the DNA, but about us? About whether we'd make it through all of this? I thought about those late nights, watching him study Lily's features like they held answers to questions he couldn't voice. I thought about the distance that grew between us, the conversations that stopped, the trust that wavered. When I saw you tear up after reading the test results, I admitted. Not because they proved what they did, but because you realized you doubted something that should never have been questionable. I'm sorry, he said again. It was maybe the 100th time since that Sunday dinner, but I let him say it. Some words need to be repeated until they heal. We're past that now, I said, but I need you to promise something. Anything. Promise me Lily will grow up knowing all her stories. The ones about your grandmother who came from Korea, the ones about my parents who worked 3 jobs to put me through nursing school, the messy parts, the mistakes, the moments we overcame, all of it. He reached across the center console and took my hand. I promise. 6 months later, Patricia's dining room looked different. Family photos now included images of Brian's grandmother and other relatives who'd been invisible for years. Sunday dinners expanded to include cousins we'd never met, friends who became family, co-workers who celebrated holidays alone. The table stretched longer with extra leaves, chairs borrowed from neighbors, place settings that mixed patterns because we ran out of matching sets. Emily had taken over updating the family photo wall, creating a collage that told the real story of the Wilsons, not just the blue eyes and strong chins, but the brown eyes and broad smiles, the straight hair and curly locks, the varying shades of skin that represented love-crossing borders and building bridges. On a particularly memorable Sunday, Rachel from California visited with her 3 children. They spoke Mandarin to Lily while teaching her to use chopsticks. Rachel shared photos of their grandmother's recipes, written in Korean and translated into English. Her husband, Michael, talked about growing up in San Francisco's Chinatown, feeling caught between cultures until he realized he could embrace them all. You know what's funny? Rachel asked me while we cleaned up after dessert. I spent years staying away because I thought I didn't belong. But Lily's situation brought us all back together. Sometimes it takes looking at yourself through someone else's eyes to see clearly. The night Lily turned 18 months, Mark found me in her nursery, watching her sleep. The mobile above her crib cast soft shadows across her features, the IE, Wilson chin, the Chen cheekbones, the grandmother's almond eyes that could have come from either side of the Pacific. I've been thinking, he whispered, about what you did that Sunday, how you could have handled it differently. My heart tightened. Preparing for criticism I thought we'd moved past. You could have just handed over the results, he continued. Let them speak for themselves. But instead, you turned it into a teaching moment. You made us all better. I was protecting our family, I said simply. No, he corrected gently. You were expanding it. Looking back, I realized that DNA test results were never really about proving Lily's paternity. They were about facing the courage to examine our own prejudices and choosing love over fear. They were about understanding that strength comes from diversity, that families grow richer when they embrace complexity instead of demanding conformity. Today, when someone asks if Lily looks like Mark, we both smile. She looks like herself, I say. And Mark adds, and she looks exactly like who she's meant to be. Because family isn't defined by resemblance or percentages of probability. It's defined by the choice to stand together even when doubt tries to pull you apart. It's defined by the willingness to grow, to question your own beliefs, to make room at the table for more stories, more love, more understanding. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.